Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news, royal family in Trembles after Prince Edward shocks everyone by saying goodbye to Buckingham Palace. Amid significant upheaval inside the British monarchy, the roles and responsibilities of its top members are being recalibrated to meet evolving public expectations and shifting institutional goals. Prince Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, are essential to this ongoing realignment. Recent speculation over the potential move of their operational headquarters from Buckingham Palace has generated considerable interest and debate. The reality is not a sudden shift, but a deliberate modification reflecting the monarchy's adaptability to the demands of the 21st century. The couple's decision to firmly establish their residence at Bagshot Park in Surrey, their ancestral estate, demonstrates a broader strategic effort by King Charles III to develop a more efficient modern institution marked by a decentralized approach to residency and engagement. Prince Edward's personal and professional trajectory within the House of Windsor has been distinct from those of his brothers. As the youngest child of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, he has had to navigate the conflicting pressures of royal duty and personal aspiration. Throughout his life, he has sought to reconcile the substantial responsibilities of royal heritage with a desire for independence, a self-sufficient career, a personal family life, and for a while an engagement in the commercial realm. His tale is marked by a series of choices that diverged from traditional standards, including an early departure from military training and a bold foray into television production. These experiences, along with a resolute commitment to public service, have gradually shaped him into a prominent member of the contemporary royal family. A close examination of his life reveals the fundamental challenges and prospects of modern royalty, the equilibrium between tradition and autonomy, personal aspiration, and institutional duty, as well as private life and public expectation. This book traces his evolution from a young prince seeking his identity to a steadfast pillar of the new authority. A break from convention, the Royal Marines. In January 1987, a significant indication of Prince Edward's desire to pursue an alternate route became apparent. At 22, he made the difficult decision to resign from the Royal Marines after completing just 4 months of a year-long officer training program. The Royal Marines are the foremost amphibious infantry regiment in Britain, well prepared for demanding operations on both land and water, and are known for their physical and psychological fortitude. Edward started his training at the Commando Training Center Royal Marines in Lympstone, Devon, a facility that assesses recruits via progressive endurance marches, live-fire exercises, and leadership assessments designed to develop resilience and tactical expertise. A multitude of trainees want to get the Green Beret, a symbol of having successfully finished one of the most demanding pre-commission courses in the United Kingdom's armed forces. Edward's retirement was a notable departure from a familial tradition of military service. His father, Prince Philip, excelled in the Royal Navy and attained the honorary title of Captain General of the Royal Marines. His older brothers, Charles and Andrew, also pursued military careers, preserving a historical link between the monarchy and the armed services. Historically, military public service for the royal family has functioned as both a symbolic duty and a practical means of connecting the crown to national institutions. The service provides both personal experience and authenticity, while enhancing the crown's ceremonial and representational ties to the military, evident in uniforms at state ceremonies and in honorary roles. By deviating from that trajectory, Edward challenged prevailing notions about the courses younger royals ought to pursue and incited questions about how dynastic traditions may evolve to accommodate personal preferences. Edward's choice was taken after much contemplation. It followed an extended time of personal reflection and concluded with a family gathering at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk when William expressed his worries to the Queen Prince Philip and his siblings. Recent reports indicated that the discourse was tense. Prince Philip allegedly experienced significant disappointment seeing the retirement as a departure from familial duty. For a family whose internal dynamics are often scrutinized via public rituals, such disagreements have significant relevance. The investigation was both personal and institutional. Could a senior royal reasonably abandon a conventional path without compromising the monarchy's principles? Formal statements intended to explain the rationale behind the choice on human autonomy and moral accountability. Buckingham Palace said that Prince Edward left after considerable consideration, and did so with great sorrow, having concluded that a military career was not his expected long-term path. Brigadier Andrew Whitehead, the commanding officer at Lympston, addressed the media respectfully. The news was welcomed with reasonable disappointment at His Royal Highness's decision. Nonetheless, I want to convey our respect for that choice. A colleague from his training cohort reflected on Edward's sincere leaving and the exchanged well wishes, stating, "We fully get his reasoning." Public sentiment was mostly favorable. Recent surveys published in London newspapers suggested that a majority of Britons supported the idea that members of the royal family should be permitted to exit a ceremony if they were unsatisfied. This sentiment reflected a growing cultural expectation that those lower in the line of succession should have a measure of personal agency in their career paths. Speculation on Edward's future trajectory arose swiftly. His burgeoning interest in theater and the arts at Cambridge University led him to the entertainment sector. A career in television and theater sharply contrasted with the discipline and hierarchy of a military position, reflecting his determination to forge a professional identity independently. This propensity for creative pursuits may be seen in two opposing ways. On one hand, it aligned with a broader modernizing movement within the monarchy younger royals, participating in endeavors that reflected the contemporary economy and culture of Britain rather than only performing ceremonial functions. Conversely, it highlighted the difficulties of shifting from royal life to ordinary business. The advantages of position and access are indisputable, as is the heightened scrutiny that follows any deficiencies. The decision was seen in conflicting ways. Critics saw his resignation as a sign of weakness or an inability to handle stress. In contrast, others viewed it as courageous, a genuine refusal of a role misaligned with his character. The event set an early precedent. Edward's royal life would be characterized by a constant endeavor to reconcile personal ambition with societal expectation, a theme that would endure in the subsequent decades. His departure may be seen as a preliminary assertion of the freedom granted to modern royals, suggesting that stringent expectations for public duty are diminishing in light of changing cultural views on personal satisfaction and mental well-being. The experience revealed to the institution that the bounds of position and service need clearer delineation, which obligations are essential for senior royals and where may personal life allow for flexibility. Ardent Productions, a dominant force in production. Following his exit from the Marines, Edward participated in the cultural sector, including a brief period with Andrew Lloyd Webber's Really Useful Theatre Company. This event intensified his want to participate in behind-the-scenes production. In 1993, Charles embarked on a bold and unconventional venture for a senior royal by co-founding his own television production company, Ardent Productions. The objective was to establish a distinguished career in a competitive media environment while asserting professional independence from royal privilege. Edward clarified that the term ardent was chosen to symbolize ambition, drive, and strength. Notably, his business cards included just the title Edward Windsor Joint Managing Director, a conscious effort to prioritize a professional identity above a purely dynastic one. Ardent's stated objective was to create exceptional dramas and documentaries for British and international broadcasters. From the outset, Edward maintained that the corporation would not exploit his royal position by developing programs about the royal family. Nonetheless, distrust among the corporate community remained prevalent. Many media professionals and journalists saw him as a dilettante who, owing to his heritage, was participating in a field where others had to prove their merit via financial achievement. The company's first show failed to achieve critical or popular acclaim. Their first documentary, Real Tennis, 1994, was on a niche aristocratic sport and attracted a modest audience. Further projects, such as the political comedy Annie's Bar, failed to appeal to critics and were cancelled after one season. Ardent suffered financial losses, and its designation as a vanity project intensified negative media attention and hostility from industry peers. The enterprise had several complications. Establishing a media firm is arduous under typical circumstances. For royalty, the constraints are intensified. Access to resources and networks is provided in ways not available to conventional firms. Nevertheless, the legitimacy of such access is easily contestable. Any commercial misstep would be assessed not alone via market metrics, but also through a public debate on propriety, whether it was appropriate for a taxpayer-funded organization to have members engaged in private profit-making that may exploit their position. Ardent sought co-productions and commissions, and while it sometimes secured broadcast slots and partnerships, they typically elicited allegations of preferential treatment. Competitors voiced their dissatisfaction, claiming that Ardent's films benefited from improper access and favorable circumstances. The company's dedication to the pledge against producing royal-related content gradually waned. In 1996, Edward presented a documentary titled Edward on Edward, focusing on his controversial great-uncle, the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward V. The program's very high ratings proved disadvantageous, as they exposed Edward and Ardent to accusations of hypocrisy, given that the production had privileged access to royal archives and interviews sometimes inaccessible to independent producers. The fundamental distinction lay not only in the topic matter but also in the evident use of status to obtain editorial influence. This was a disconcerting fusion of a royal's personal identity with the financial motives of a production company, eliciting apprehensions among the public and family members concerned about privacy and precedent. The pivotal turning point occurred in 2001 when an Ardent crew was found documenting near Prince William at the University of St. Andrews, where he was enrolled as a student. This occurred despite a palace-mediated media agreement designed to protect William's privacy throughout his undergraduate years. The incident resulted in a considerable familial rift. Prince Charles reportedly expressed outrage, seeing the recording as a grave breach of trust and an exploitation of a susceptible family member's private affairs for financial gain. The occurrence is notable not just for the immediate personal conflict it provoked, but also for its broader implications. It occurred at a time when the royal family and the media were re-establishing boundaries after a decade of more invasive tabloid behavior. Being seen as contributing to that culture of intrusion, even indirectly, was harmful. The public's reaction was immediate and fervent. Tabloid commentary derided Ardent as a sad joke, and the event, taking place amid heightened sensitivity over press intrusion into royal privacy, intensified calls for clearer delineations between private enterprise and royal obligations. The recording controversy involving Prince William coincided with a damaging event concerning Sophie Rhys-Jones, who was secretly caught making indiscreet remarks to an undercover reporter posing as a potential client. These occurrences together compelled Buckingham Palace to re-evaluate the business ventures of active royals. By 2001, updated and rigorous criteria substantially restricted the capacity of senior family members to engage in private economic activities that may conflict with their official duties or use royal status for monetary advantage. Confronted with escalating public and institutional scrutiny, Edward's business venture terminated. In March 2002, he announced his departure from his leadership role at Ardent Productions, signifying his return to full-time royal duties in association with the Queen's Golden Jubilee. He described his departure positively, framing it as a return to service and a renewed dedication to humanitarian activities. The ruling effectively marked the termination of the company as a viable business entity. Ardent continued to operate at a much reduced capacity for many years until entering voluntary insolvency in 2009. Upon its final dissolution in 2011, corporate records revealed assets amounting to only $40.27 The 16-year experiment was deemed a failure in both financial and reputational terms. It imparted a profound lesson on the difficulties of reconciling personal ambition and entrepreneurial endeavors with the inherent constraints of royal life. Success may be ascribed to privilege, whilst failure would be magnified by public scrutiny. The incident drove Edward and Sophie to refocus on dedicated public service. The ardent years provide significant lessons that transcend their immediate results. They expose the dissonance between the monarchy's public legitimacy and the commercial imperatives of modern life. They highlighted the evolution of the media landscape. A more competitive tabloid-focused press could ruthlessly expose evident hypocrisy, while a 24-hour news cycle led to instantaneous reputational consequences for errors or miscalculations. The episode highlighted the need for the royal family to have clear restrictions regarding the economic activities allowed for working royals. The ensuing policy initiatives were intended to protect less prominent family members while also striving to maintain institutional integrity. The insights gained from Ardent have influenced the guidance offered to younger royals contemplating commercial ventures and have impacted the palace's strategy on potential conflicts of interest between official duties and personal gain. A private life under public observation. Throughout his public life, Prince Edward has always emphasized safeguarding his family's privacy, a stance influenced by seeing the intense media attention endured by his siblings. His relationship with Sophie Rhys-Jones, who became the Duchess of Edinburgh after their elevation, typifies a deliberately quiet courtship. The duo first met in 1987 at Capital Radio, where Sophie worked in public relations. In 1993, they resumed communication during a charity tennis event organized by Edward, thereafter commencing a secretive romance. For several years, they cultivated their romance secretly, with meticulous caution to avoid publicity. Upon the unavoidable disclosure of their relationship, Edward openly requested the media for privacy to allow the natural progression of their connection. Unlike the public and rapid courtships of many of his siblings, Edward and Sophie advanced at a deliberate pace, with 6 years elapsing before their engagement was announced in January 1999. The purposely sluggish pace was seen as a tactic to learn from the marital conflict of other family branches, with the goal of establishing a robust foundation for their own relationship. In her engagement interview, Sophie recounted her initial reaction when queried about her immediate affirmation. She expressed feeling slightly surprised for a moment, before responding, "Yes, please." This narrative underscores the couple's deliberate and thoughtful approach to public life. Edward's relationship with the media has often been controversial. His insistence on isolation was sometimes seen as aloofness or arrogance by certain elements of the public and the media. When asked about his matrimonial aspirations, he brusquely instructed reporters to mind their own business, a candid statement that, while defensible given the intrusive examination, did not endear him to some observers. The discord between royalty and the press is not unprecedented. However, in Edward's case, it was intensified by the unconventional path of his public life, an early departure from military service, a foray into business, and a subsequent return to representational duties, all under the unyielding gaze of the media. Concerning public duties, Edward developed a distinctive approach to relationships. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, pioneered the walkabout, a method of navigating through crowds to interact with the public, and shake hands, a practice designed to forge a personal link between the monarch and the populace. Conversely, Edward often opted not to shake hands at such gatherings, claiming that this avoidance allowed him to interact with a larger number of folks within the limited duration. This pragmatic choice, although successful, significantly distinguished his public manner from that of previous royals, and offered a new focus point for discussions on personality and accessibility. Family life ultimately provided Edward with the stability he desired. He and Sophie were married in June 1999 at St. George's Chapel, Windsor, in a somewhat modest wedding. Their children are Lady Louise Windsor, born in 2003, and James, Earl of Wessex, born in 2007. The family's primary residence is Bagshot Park, a 19th-century mansion located on extensive grounds in Surrey, rented by the Crown Estate since the couple's marriage. Bagshot Park has served as a residential refuge, enabling the quiet, family-oriented lifestyle that Edward has long sought, providing a respite from the constant attention associated with royal position. Bagshot Park shows the successive manifestations of royal residence. The historical presence of senior royals in central palaces like Buckingham and Kensington reinforced the monarchy's connection to London's ceremonial life. As the monarchy modernizes and emphasizes a more compact working family, there is a pragmatic justification for distributing residences. It allows senior royals to foster better relationships with regional towns, engage in local activities more often, and maintain a more balanced work-life dynamic. Bagshot Park, together with its gardens and relative seclusion, serves as a foundation for regional initiatives while preserving the solitude crucial for familial life. The restoration and maintenance of these estates, often carried out in partnership with the Crown Estate or other governmental bodies, are essential to ongoing dialogues over public funding transparency and the efficient use of royal assets. Edward's engagements with the extended royal family have been complex and diverse. In her 1993 book, Royal Children, royal author Ingrid Seward analyzed the complex childhood dynamic between Edward and his elder sibling, Prince Andrew. Seward portrayed Andrew, 4 years senior to Edward, as somewhat overbearing, while describing Edward as a kind and well-mannered youngster who suppressed his feelings. She said that this dynamic was also evident in the school setting. Nevertheless, Edward ultimately established his own identity at Gordonstoun, where he reportedly excelled academically and attained leadership positions, including that of head boy, a job not occupied by his brother Andrew. These narratives illustrate the many interpersonal limitations Edward had as a young prince in a prestigious, publicly visible home. In recent years, intermittent public concern has arisen over the prince's health. Following a public appearance in March 2023, soon after his appointment as Duke of Edinburgh, social media critics noted his reduced physique and speculated about possible sickness or stress-related impacts, especially in light of the recent loss of both his parents. The German publication Bunte said that Buckingham Palace informed the newspaper that everything is excellent, Prince Edward is healthy, although no official public statement was issued to clarify the claims. Such events demonstrate how social media and the modern news cycle may amplify personal concerns into dominant narratives, provoking reactions of reassurance or reticence from the palace. Over the course of decades in public life, Edward and Sophie have faced professional controversies and personal challenges. Their transition to full-time royal duties in 2002 marked a crucial juncture. Freed from the conflict between private enterprise and public obligations, they were able to define their roles in more conventional terms. Over time, their steadfast marital union and dedication to their patronages have transformed public perception, changing them from misunderstood outsiders to reliable, respected contributors to the monarchy's current functions. The Edinburgh title, a legacy actualized. On 10 March 2023, Prince Edward was conferred the title Duke of Edinburgh by his brother, King Charles III, in celebration of his 59th birthday. This conferral signified the culmination of an extended series of titles and was generally seen as an affirmation of their late father, Prince Philip's aspirations. The Dukedom of Edinburgh was conferred onto Prince Philip for over 70 years, from his nuptials with Princess Elizabeth in 1947 until his death in 2021, making it one of the most esteemed and historically important titles in the British peerage. Prince Philip expressly articulated his intention for his youngest son to assume the title, a wish underscored by Edward's sustained involvement in one of Philip's paramount initiatives, the Duke of Edinburgh's Award. Established in 1956, this youth achievement program fosters resilience, skill acquisition, physical fitness, and community engagement via a structured series of challenges and levels. Edward had assumed considerable responsibility for the administration and marketing of the award, demonstrating the continuity of purpose envisioned by his father. His leadership strengthened throughout the years as he sought to advance the project both nationally and internationally, representing the award at events and championing its importance in youth development. In recognition of his ties to Scotland, Edward was appointed Earl of Forfar in 2019. Upon his marriage in 1999, he received the title Earl of Wessex, an unconventional and personalized choice, reportedly influenced by his fondness for a fictional character in a film rather than traditional royal titles. The Queen approved his request, acknowledging that the Dukedom of Edinburgh may be conferred upon him in the future. The handover of the dukedom was not inevitable, nor mandated by law or constitution. Following Prince Philip's death, the royal dukedom merged with the crown, making its re-granting a discretionary privilege of the monarch. This technical feature is essential for understanding the intricacies of modern royal title creation. When a peerage merges with the crown, it ceases to exist as an independent hereditary title until the reigning monarch chooses to restore it. Upon King Charles III's accession, ambiguity ensued over the prompt reinstatement of the dukedom to Edward, or the evaluation of other contenders. Discussions suggested that King Charles was contemplating reserving the title for his granddaughter Princess Charlotte as part of his overarching aim for a more efficient monarchy. This idea purportedly created distress for Edward and Sophie, who had dedicated 20 years to full-time royal service, with the expectation that Edward would ultimately inherit the crown. The hypothesis on the destiny of the dukedom reflected wider dialogues concerning succession symbolism and the configuration of the modern working family. King Charles's intention to reduce the number of senior royals with significant titles is part of a strategy to focus public attention and official duties on a smaller core group, thereby allowing other family members to pursue private lives with fewer institutional responsibilities. Assigning a significant title for a next generation may be seen as a means of harmonizing tradition with the monarch's vision of an effective family. For Edward, the ultimate gift represented the fulfillment of family expectations and recognition of his enduring commitment. Ultimately, King Charles realized his father's long-standing wish and conferred the dukedom onto his brother. The announcement from Buckingham Palace stated His Majesty, "The King has graciously bestowed the Dukedom of Edinburgh upon the Prince Edward Earl of Wessex and Forfar in commemoration of His Royal Highness's 59th birthday. The title will be held by Prince Edward for the entirety of His Royal Highness's life." This legal requirement was essential, as it specified that upon Edward's death, the dukedom would belong to the crown rather than immediately going to his son James, who had the courtesy title of Earl of Wessex. This arrangement aligns with the king's larger objective of reducing the number of senior royals with high-ranking titles and creating a more efficient and cohesive working family. The decision to grant the title for life, rather than as a hereditary peerage, constitutes a complicated constitutional procedure. It allows the monarch to recognize and praise service while preserving discretion about future distributions of hereditary titles. For Edward, the hereditary dukedom provided personal satisfaction and social acknowledgement without necessarily perpetuating an endless increase of titled heirs, a harmony between dynastic tradition and an evolving comprehension of institutional efficacy. The purchase of the dukedom represented both a symbolic and substantive recognition of Edward's status within the current monarchy. It affirmed his extended oversight over his father's initiatives and reinforced his status among the senior ranks of the working royal family. The newly created Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh marked their elevated position with an engagement in Edinburgh, where they conversed with members of the local Ukrainian community, signifying a first acknowledgement of the diplomatic and humanitarian responsibilities linked to their title. A redefined role in a modern monarchy. Prince Edward's evolution from a young prince in search of personal identity to a significant figure within the contemporary monarchy illustrates the institution's capacity for adaptation. His biography lacks a dramatic rupture like that of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, instead illustrating a steady adaptation, a progressive alignment of personal aspiration and civic duty. The current speculation over Edward's departure from Buckingham Palace could be seen as a realistic reorganization, a reallocation of operations to Bagshot Park, and a thorough redistribution of housing and responsibilities around the royal estate. With the modernization of the monarchy, especially under the strategic guidance of King Charles III, the operational focus for many members is shifting from a centralized hub, Buckingham Palace, to a decentralized model where senior royals live and work from various locations near their communities and patronages. Within the current royal structure, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh have emerged as pivotal figures. In light of significant departures, notably the removal of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from key royal duties and Prince Andrew's absence from public life, Edward and Sophie have assumed a larger share of patronages, engagements, and representational obligations. Their subtle and thorough methodology has ensured continuity and stability for the institution throughout a time of considerable public examination and internal modification. The couple's willingness to undertake positions requiring patience and low-key advocacy has enhanced an institution striving to demonstrate stable administration and public worth rather than notoriety. Edward's first problems, his exit from the Marines and the unsuccessful Ardent Productions venture, were not only impediments, but also illuminating experiences that defined the boundaries of what is attainable for a functional prince. They highlighted the intrinsic difficulty of maintaining a traditional professional life while managing the obligations and visibility linked to royal status. Since 2002, the lesson has influenced Edward's attitude to his responsibilities, highlighting longevity, respect for the limits of royal commercialism, and a slow cultivation of trust within familial and public sector institutions. Ultimately, Edward's paramount achievements have sprung from his public service endeavors. By assuming full-time royal duties, he has become an adept advocate for his chosen causes, particularly in the realms of the arts and youth development, notably via the Duke of Edinburgh's award. His substantial association with the award, promoting its values, representing it at ceremonies, and augmenting its global visibility, has been essential to his public identity. During periods of institutional adversity, such as the need to adapt youth programs to changing socioeconomic conditions and interruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the award's leadership and advocates emphasized the significance of continuity and adaptability, to which Edward has been attentive. He has initiated efforts to modernize the scheme's execution, enhance its appeal, and preserve its relevance in a changing social landscape, while upholding its core tenets of self-reliance and community service. Sophie has garnered an international reputation via her lobbying and activism on issues such as the prevention of sexual assault in war and the promotion of women's and girls' rights and opportunities. Her approach is characterized by subtle coalition building and unwavering determination, a kind of lobbying that may produce lasting institutional change, but without flashy headlines. They reflect a modern royal partnership characterized by reciprocal support, shared values, and a purposeful dedication to upholding the crown. Their account illustrates resilience and adaptation. It demonstrates that service in a monarchy transcends mere adherence to tradition. Rather, it encompasses the pursuit of authentic, constructive duties that respect continuity while responding to contemporary societal needs. In the evolving landscape of 21st-century monarchy, Prince Edward's path illustrates that enduring resilience often stems from a blend of personal integrity, pragmatic judgment, and committed public engagement, a synthesis that allows tradition to retain its significance through thoughtful renewal. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, by maintaining consistency and a redefined public presence at Bagshot Park, illustrate the royal family's strategic realignment, diminished in size, more mission-oriented and geographically distributed, a framework intended to preserve the monarchy's significance while adapting its roles to modern expectations. The Edinburgh residence illustrates a realistic strategy as the institution contends with issues of purpose, public funding, and representation. In this scenario, senior royals, having learned from previous mistakes and the changing nature of public perception, choose responsibilities that correspond with their skills and temperaments, acknowledge the constraints of public life, and value service over personal financial ambitions. In this environment, Prince Edward's life, marked by experimentation, correction, and steadfast public commitment, epitomizes the significant problems and opportunities facing a monarchy that must remain rooted in history while adjusting to the needs of a changing nation. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.